This movie begins with Antonio Shinozaki Rui starts his job as a delivery man. He also works as a parking attendant on the side. He takes over the position from the previous person. Antonio was surprised when Akari arrived. Akari mistakes him for the grandpa she used to visit, and gives him fruits and a box of food. When Antonio scolds her, Akari realizes her mistake, and asks for her food back before leaving. Antonio invited Akari to watch together, when it started raining. Before leaving, Akari gave her lunchbox to Antonio. Antonio ate it enthusiastically. The next day, Akari is preparing for work. She works in customer service, and her boss approaches and touches her. Antonio returned to his place of training to apologize for his prolonged absence, as a result of which his boss had stopped considering him for work. Antonio no longer intends to fight, even though his boss expects him to prove himself in the ring. Akari visits Antonio. On the day, he returns a container, and they spend time together, watching a movie. Akari asks Antonio to open the window, mistakenly believing Antonio has been working out. But it turns out, the unpleasant smell is actually coming from Antonio's shoes. Akari addresses Antonio as uncle, assuming he is either 48 or 36 years old. She also inquires about the earrings worn by the main character, to which Antonio confirms that they are identical to those worn by Akari. Antonio washes his feet and gives Akari a peach. Then, Akari tells Antonio her name. She asked if she could come at his place again. Akari sits singing at the door. When she felt water on her feet, she tried to check it out. She slipped on the water. Antonio waits for Akari's arrival. He opens the window, and shakes his jacket, to keep out the bad smell. Antonio smiles, because he knows Akari is coming. Akari smells Antonio's new shoes, and Antonio feels embarrassed. Akari asks if Antonio is attractive, which makes him uncomfortable. Akari left Antonio's place, and got hit by a car, on her way. Antonio saw the accident and quickly assisted her, taking her to the hospital. Afterwards, Antonio accompanied Akari back home. While on the bus, Akari asked for Antonio's name. He felt embarrassed and hesitant to tell her. When they reached the apartment complex, Antonio noticed that Akari's leg was still hurting, and offered to help her. Akari refused, because she believed that accepting help would lead to regret. Despite Akari's refusal, Antonio insisted. Upon arriving at Akari's house, she asked for Antonio's help to fix the drains. While doing so, Antonio found some underwear in the drain. Akari asked it quickly. Because he helped her, Akari gave him concert tickets as a thanks, and asked him to go with her, since Antonio didn't have any friends. Antonio left feeling happy. The following day, Akari visited a salon, changed her appearance, did her makeup, and chose appropriate clothes. She changed her clothes as she realized that the outfit she wore was a bit open. They enjoyed the music together at the concert, and on their way back home, they stopped at Akari's favorite place to eat. She accidentally dropped her meat, and Antonio handed her a rag. Akari starts telling a story about her parents, and asks Antonio about his past and job, before becoming a parking attendant. However, Antonio hates his past, and doesn't want to discuss it. When at Akari's house, Antonio explains that he is a boxer, and has had a bad past. He, who is 24 years old, is misunderstood by Akari, who call him uncle. The following day, Akari goes about her normal routine at work. Her boss calls her to his room, and gives her a necklace as a gift. While they were interrupted by another employee, Antonio explains why he vanished 3 years ago. He was an illegal underground boxer who was actively involved with an evil gang, and became one of their executioners. In the last cases, he was sent to prison for 3 years. Antonio visited the nun at the church to find solace and redeem himself from his wrongdoings. The nun gave Antonio a small present to give to her loved one. It is where he recalls his childhood. The scene proceeds with Akari arriving at her house, unaware that the director is already there. Her boss compelled Akari to discuss work-related issues at her own residence. Her boss noticed the unopened gift he had given. He pulled Akari, and made her wear the necklace he gave her, as a gift. He tries to impose his will on Akari, but when she refuses, he hits her. The boss, having had enough, started abusing Akari. Fortunately, Antonio arrived and immediately hit the boss mercilessly, even breaking his finger. Akari pleads to stop the abuse, and expresses her fear of getting fired. She asks if Antonio could take responsibility for the situation. Antonio offers to help Akari, but she thinks he doesn't understand of her situation. Antonio departs, and before he goes, he left the presents given by the nurse. Several days went by, and Antonio waited for Akari, who never come back at his place again. Until one day, Akari fulfilled Antonio's desires. Then, Akari requested Antonio to take him to a specific place. Antonio took Akari to a beach, where Antonio was young. At the beach, they became close, and had playful moments together. The beach reminded Antonio of his childhood. Akari comforted Antonio, while searching for sea glass. Antonio gives Akari the sea glass he found. Akari says it brought them together. Antonio returns to boxing, to regain control of his life. He is excited to live his current life, which was made possible by Akari. He got a puppy to guard Akari. He named it Suku. Antonio is fixing the house to ensure that it is safer for Akari. Crossing the missing door barrier surprises Akari. The sunlight also came into the room, causing her to feel something new. Akari touched Antonio's face, as she wanted to see it. They feel a strong bond between them. Antonio is captivated by Akari's gaze. Next, we see Antonio fighting in the ring. He did everything for Akari. In another place, Akari imitates Antonio's moves in the ring. Antonio emerged victorious in this battle. Akari, who had been practicing massage, asked Antonio to turn around, and gave him a massage. He felt a burn scar on Antonio's hand when he touched it. Antonio changes the subject, and asks Akari why she is learned to practicing massage. Akari explains that she wants to set up a shop, selling pots or flower vases, because she doesn't want to be idle. Antonio wants to help Akari achieve her dream. This time, Antonio is fighting, and he beats his opponent again. If he wins, just one more fight, he will become the champion. Because he was afraid of being scolded by Akari, Antonio wanted to hide his battered face. On his way home, Antonio meets his old friend, who used to be the leader of his former gang. He refuses to join once more. Akari was waiting for some time, and she examined Antonio's bruised face. Akari sang a song on the bus, and he finally felt he had a home. They pay a visit to Akari's parents' burial site to present Antonio to his parents. Akari also shared her accident story that Antonio became aware he caused the death of her parents when Akari was in an accident. The accident occurred when Antonio was there as an executioner. He expressed his frustration, and met an old acquaintance on his way. They asked Antonio to fight again, but he refused. Meanwhile, Akari feels something strange on her eyes. Upon arriving home, Antonio finds Akari in the hospital. Akari has injured her rib, and the doctor also says she has a problem with her retina. Antonio convinces Akari to agree to the operation, and she stands firm. Antonio intends to make amends to Akari by helping her regain her sight. This will be achieved by restoring his sight. They both arrived home, and at the doorstep, Antonio noticed a symbol like a tattoo on his hand. He meets his old friends. He informs that he broke up with her and requests not to disturb Akari. He requested payment for agreeing to join him. Antonio accompanies Akari to the operation room. He thinks that this is his final encounter with Akari. He consoles Akari once more. Antonio plans to depart from Akari. He destroys any trace of Akari's happy moments with him by burning a picture of both of them. He risked everything in the underground arena fight. He intended to end it all and make it his final fight. His opponent severely beat Antonio. As he almost lost, his opponent let his guard down, and he landed a kick straight to his face. He emerged as the winner of the fight. Akari had successful eye surgery, eventually can see again. Rui receives money and transfers it to the Akari's account and the families of the people he killed to make amends for his actions. After the call, someone hit and stabbed him. The apartment owner asked Akari to move, but she still remembers her past. A courier delivered a package, sent by Antonio himself, and arrived on time. Akari examines what is inside the gift, given by Antonio. Akari comes across the nurse, who reveals that Antonio was responsible for her parents' accident, which makes Antonio feel guilty. Akari attempts to replicate Antonio's face, who cannot see him, with her own eyes. It has been 2 years since Akari opened her own interior shop. She stopped going to her shop every weekend, as a volunteer at the hospital. Antonio, who got injuries, is also receiving treatment at the same hospital. After the old man mentioned Akari's name, Antonio turned his head. He was surprised to see Akari again. Whenever Akari came, she would offer to massage the patients there. Antonio cover his burn scar. Akari notices it, but chooses to ignore it. Antonio feels sad that Akari doesn't recognize him. After being discharged from the hospital, Antonio went directly to the interior shop, owned by Akari. He purchased an osmanthus plant, and while paying, he accidentally caught a glimpse of a package he had given to Akari. When he looked at it, the shopkeeper informed him that it wasn't for sale. He quickly left, and Suku, the dog, approached Antonio. Akari tried to help him, and recalled Antonio as a patient from the hospital. She returned to her shop. According to the employee, the boy was sad upon seeing it. She thought that Antonio had come to his shop and ran to look for him. Unfortunately, she lost him. On the beach, Antonio attempts suicide, but Akari screams his name, causing him to stop. Akari says they should go home together. Akari touched his face, then gave him a hug, and said welcome back. Antonio replied he had come home. That is the storyline of Your Eyes Tell movie. As usual, those of you who have watched it to the end, I hope this film recap can entertain and fill your free time. Don't forget to leave comments, or share your opinion for this one movie plot, in the comments column. That's all from me, and see you on another video.